Hello, Charlie TCG here. Welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, what's happening over in Japan, and how will it impact on. Today, I'm going to ask a simple question. Is Budew a threat or savior to the game? By analysing what Budew does, what decks have been slowed down by Budew, and also the decks that are dominating this sort of format, we have a greater picture to see exactly what the Champions League is going to look like this coming weekend. So hopefully, by breaking down the toxic scene meta share in the City League, actually understanding what Budew does, we have a greater understanding about where our meta game is really going to look like in next coming months. So, without further ado, let's talk about Budew. So, of course, last week we talked about how Budew was in nearly 50% of different archetypes on Japan's first weekend. So, actually see how it's really coping right now in this new format. So, obviously, we know it's a baby Pokemon similar to Cleffa, but unlike Cleffa, which is supporting you, Budew is really hindering your opponent by doing 10 damage and locking them up for in the item cards in the next turn. Obviously, that's slowing down a great of the key sort of search cards like Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, Bunny Prophet, and Earthen Vessel, really good recovery cards like Night Stretcher, and more importantly, Rare Candy, slowing down these stage 2 Pokemon. This is obviously very, very powerful. It's making the form be much slower. And again, it's not just shutting off these key item cards, of course, it's showing down all these ace specs like Prime Catcher, Secret Box, Pressure Trolley, Energy Search Pro, Hyper Roam, and Scramble Switch. All these good key cards. Being like the Raging Bottle or any gusting effect like their Prime Catcher and Pokemon Catcher, really, really key. Shutting down Charizard so they can't get any of their rare candies. More importantly, like Golden Go, they can't get their energies right now on turn 2. You're throwing down the format completely and potentially buying yourself a couple turns. So exactly what deck's really thriving in this sort of format? Well, the decks like Dragapult and Gardevoir are doing incredibly well because obviously they don't really have that good sort of turn 1 attack if they go second. So chucking a Budew out there, slowing down the opponent is really good. You have amazing sort of stage 1 Pokemon with really good draw factor. So of course you can afford to be that little bit slower. Then game, potentially you're not attacking until turn 4 or 5. That's amazing because by the time you get around to attack, you have an incredible good stable board state. The opponent is really going to struggle to keep him. But like Miraidon works really well in Budew. It's an incredibly fast aggressive deck. If Miraidon's going first, it can play a ton of the item cards, use as many of the elect generators, see as many sort of cards as possible, and hopefully streamline attacks turn after turn after turn. Or if they're in turn 2, if they go second, they're really putting that huge pressure on the game and effectively can really win the game right now, especially with the likes of Iron Hands. But then we think about the opposite. What decks really kind of declining? Like the Charizard, Regidrago, Regidrago, all of these like 15% of decks, kind of like all the way go down to like 4%. So it's incredibly powerful. Like the Charizard had to adapt and like survive in a way, because also they're locked out from the likes of their rare candies. And so Raging Bolt, as you mentioned, and Regidrago, they lose a ton of their discarding cards, like Earthen Vessel, like Ultra Ball. They're really limited now to just playing a Squawkabilly at turn 1, or Regidrago uses its ability and the likes of Professor's Research. So again, it's slowing down all these cards because this one Pokemon is really sort of meta warping. As you see about this right now, I think it's really great. Some of these decks, which are definitely being a lot more oppressive decks, like Raging Bolt, Regidrago, definitely taking a little bit of the back seat because of the likes of Budew. To actually break down the toxicity meta share, again, we can see it's changed so much since last week. We've seen likes of Dragapult and Gardevoir and Miraidon actually being up for our top. Some decks are really surprising, likes of Ceruledge doing really well. But again, I think Budew is a great partner of Ceruledge. It's one of those decks which doesn't have a turn 1 attacking option. So having that Budew as well, slowing down the opponent, can actually win you the game completely. By they might go, oh, I have to KO this one prize of Pokemon, or you just promote a free retreater. It's not going to hinder by removing any of the Charker decks. So I really like that sort of style of play. But again, we're like I mentioned before, like Charizard has the highest potential of these great decks last form, being 4%, and Regidrago is always at 2.8. Again, it's incredible how much the format has really changed. Klawf, I think, is another great sort of abuser with likes of Budew, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, and I think it's incredibly scary. But some other decks like Dragapult and Ancient Box also doing really well. I think Dragapult makes a bit of sense, having 300 HP can easily be powered up, but again, it really needs to have that item cards to get that research, to get those Earth Vessels, get those engine discard power to really abuse it as well. And likes of Lugia is also doing well with the Regidrago. And you might go, oh, sorry, Regigigas. You might go, but Regigigas is only in there for Charizard. Wrong. It also shows down the likes of Dragapult get one hit KOs of them, and of course likes of Ceruledge as well. So actually seeing the metagame is actually warped to a little bit nicer. Gone over the likes of these big sort of basic Pokemon, only likes of Miraidon, but Miraidon's a great sort of a way as well. It can kind of have that big powerful attack and kind of like really kind of go around the likes of Budew. So let's actually break down sort of these top sort of placing lists in the City League to really hopefully understand about how the Champions League is really going to shape up this weekend. So if we look at this Dragapult, I really like this one. It's much better than what I shared about last week. The reason why I think it's much better, it's a much more cleaner sort of list. Plays a 4-3-3 line Dragapult, which I think is a great one, and only having one copy of Lance. I really like Lance in this deck. The reason why I think Lance is so good, it gets you your Dragapults, it also gets your Dracloaks as well. It's a really good draw engine as well. Obviously, Budew is going to be your main attacking option to chuck down the access bar. It's a really good free retreater, but also it's great. You can slow down, you can build up your board state by with your Dracloaks in there drawing through the archetype, which I think is really, really strong. Also see the rest of it, it's very sort of straightforward. High Council of Arvin and Iona, again, you're really good. You want to really max out on these ones, try like use these turn for turn for turn. Still play the Red Candy, and of course you still play Spark and Crystal, because I think you have to need it in Dragapult, but you can go that a little bit slower approach. Like something like Crispin, you can actually energy attachment a little bit slower game. So I think that's exactly what this deck really has to offer. Budew makes you attack like turn 3 or turn 4, but then you have a really good stable board state, and it's really difficult for your opponent to like deal with. So it could be like some Gardevoir, and I really like this build. It's a little bit different to how we've seen. Most of Gardevoir build, we are seeing the unfair sample as a main sort of ace spec, but having a precious trolley kind of makes a little bit of sense. It makes you get your whole board states, get your out your curlies, get your Rolts, gets any of your key support Pokemon like your Clefairy, like your Fluttermane, Monkey Dory, Manaphy. I think all of this is really, really good, especially what I really like this one, especially in the early sort of games as well, before your opponent gives the Budew, which effectively you can't get out for your Buddy Poffins. Again, it's really good for its Arven searchable, similar likes of TM Evo as well, which is really good for board state. And of course, you can attach TM Evo under likes of Budew. So again, something to think about as well. Obviously, this is good, best the second to a best user of Budew. So I will think that we're going to see a lot of good Gardevoir sort of players at the Champions League. Of course, we saw a Japanese player won with Gardevoir last week, few weekends ago at Perth. So again, and obviously Japan does very, very well with Gardevoir, so it's definitely something to be kept on our radar, and will not be surprised if Gardevoir has a really good deep run in top 16. You get very much to say about like Miraidon. Miraidon is incredibly good, and obviously Japan loves Miraidon. It's won a ton of Champions League this past few years. So this build here is very straightforward. Didn't really gain any new cards, but I think just gained a really good position in the metagame. Still having a Magnetron Pikachu, I think is great. Magnetron, of course, have that really explosive start turn. On your second turn, power provides you power up in 9 hands, just floodload your board of energies. Of course, it goes away with rounds of like Budew to actually energy accelerate from your discard pile. Pikachu as well to unlock the bench, and we can see exactly that in the supporter camp. The 4 of Arven and Boss's Order, of course, Secret Box as well. Because Secret Box, I think, is the best sort of ace spec from Miraidon, pretty much getting nearly every single card you might really need to have. So again, not really much to talk about Miraidon. I just think it's so fast and so aggressive, it can really keep up in this sort of Budew style format. Again, could be said about Ceruledge. Ceruledge has definitely adapted just a little bit, and this build here I really like. For having a copy of Budew and Monkey Dory with Darkness Energies, also this just makes so much sense. Also, if Pokemon gets quite a lot of damage on this one, Monkey Dory is great because also it's an extra energy attachment. If you have Pokemon get some 30 damage on it, just move that damage across. Also, that's one less energy you might have in your discard pile to actually deal with this damage. And Budew really helps you in the deck. Sometimes you need quite a few of the combo pieces. You're going to be so aggressive in the sort of early turn, sometimes even depleting most of your resources. So Budew is really great at just slow down your opponent. Also, you use all your resources out there, you chuck the Budew in the access spot, also you have a free retreater, but also you'll slow down your opponent, giving them that item lock, giving yourself maybe a turn or two to really have that really good stable board state. Potentially your opponent could be really difficult to really respond with. Against the likes of Golden Girl, I have noticed how terrifying it is when you play that with a Budew as well. You slow down your entire deck completely. Again, the likes of Charizard as well, just not having access to any of your rare candies is absolutely devastating. That really is a good lead on to look at like Lugia, a deck which actually works really well into both sort of sense. It works well in the format where you need a lot of discarded factors anyway, so potentially you need to hire out your research, potentially add more Serenas in there, or potentially even display your Carmine as well. Obviously, you're very item reliant in get your discarding factors, but also Regidrago is so strong in likes of Dragapult, in likes of Ceruledge. If these are going to be the top archetypes right now, this Regidrago is incredibly strong. I think having a Welsh from my third opponent is also really good. Not only is it a Terra Pokemon because it can work, have a fuller bench if you're against an Area Zero deck, but also it's really great to like trap someone in the access spot against Budew, potentially saving yourself a few turns to actually discard your Archeops in the later sort of turn. So again, I think Lugia is in a great sort of spot right now. I think having the Iron Hands is also a good response to like your to get rid of a potential Budew. But again, you just kind of get out of this as well. So potentially a good way to adapt and is when it's playing higher counts of discarding effect on supporters instead of relying on like some Ultra Ball to get your Archeops in the discard pile. Now, of course, Ancient Box, and this build here is incredibly different. We've seen most of the build play likes of the new Koraidon, because Koraidon is great into Miraidon. It's a really good attacking option as well. But of course, that's only after you attack like a Ramoon or any sort of ancient cards afterwards. Then also it gets that big one-hit kill on anything. This build here is a little bit different. Obviously plays the usual sort of suspects like the Petulant and Monkey Dory, but also plays a Walking Weight. This is only really for that discarding factor, but also plays the likes of the Unfair Stamp. For this, I don't really like. I really like an Ancient Box, Secret Box. As I mentioned quite a few times, it's much better than the likes of Brilliant Blender because also in the Secret Box you have additional discarding factors. Nearly every single one of the cards you can easily get discarded, effectively get even more cards as well from it. And more in your discard pile. So I think that's much stronger. But Unfair Stamp could be really great as a really good key disruptive sort of card as well to really helpfully slow down sort of format as well. So again, we're seeing this here that the knock-on effect of having a lot of a Budew in effect is some of these aggressive sort of archetypes are really adapting into this one to potentially be a lot slower and hopefully win that sort of way. Now let's look at Archaludon, another fun little archetype as well, which is kind of doing really well in Japan right now. We haven't had a huge sort of showing right now in our sort of format, but this I really like. Having the Scissor as well is great to do additional damage, the amount of Pokemon abilities that effect. Obviously, we know the format is very ability reliant, so this is a great single price attacking option, but it's a little bit different than how we're seen. I love having the Scoop Up Cyclone as a really good way to just pick up Archaludon and hopefully flood the board with more energies later on the turn. But also seeing the likes of Morty. I think Morty is a really good card we've seen in a lot of decks right now. If you think about how powerful likes of areas your underdepths is, most people are going to have a bench of 8 sometimes in those sort of decks, so you can also draw 8 additional cards that's really good, only for 1 discarding effect. Now, of course, the scariest thing is if you're against a Budew, you lose the likes of your Ultra Ball and you lose the likes of your Earthen Vessel. But this has a way. It does play that Morty, like I mentioned, plays a Churro to a way to like, it gets more engines in discard pile. It also plays that Professor's Research as well. So it has lots of other key discarding effect and their supporters, as well as also the likes of the Pokestop as well. So again, something a little bit to think about Archaludon. Should we play a Budew as well to have that slowing down effect? Because you aren't really ever going to get a turn 1 attack except really play a Duraludon do 30 damage. Effectively, that Budew, there is no sort of limitation. That's another thing you've got to look into this deck, is how powerful and how flashable this card is. Now let's actually look at these key sort of decks, the ones that have actually really slowed down. And we can see this Charizard deck has completely evolved differently. Also, we're having a 3-2-2 line of Charizard, a 2-1-2 line of Pidgeot, and a 2-2 line of Dusknoir. Again, we're having much thicker lines because they can actually utilize likes of Grand Tree, evolving into your Charizard and Pidgeots and Dusknoir much earlier on, and actually through the likes of Rare Candy. Obviously, you have the Team Evo as well, another way to actually end pretty much turbo your board out to actually try and hopefully get a turn 2 Charizard and Pidgeot, which obviously is kind of the best way to win the game. Obviously, with that case, you can run less copies of Rare Candy, as you're not going to be utilizing them because of the likes of Budew. So again, you can utilize Budew in Charizard, but the best way around this one is to try and play around it. Have like a bigger line of your stage 1s to hopefully get into your stage 2s much easier. So again, that's something to really think about how Charizard is evolving, going into these figure lines of Charmeleon, Dusclops, as well as also Pidgeotto, to really unlock the deck's potential. So again, we're seeing the effect, the knock-on effect of Budew, and how one of the best decks in the format right now to completely change and evolve to try and keep up from item lock. Then we see the likes of Terapagos, and I mentioned this before, I generally think this is one of the best users of Budew. The reason why, because of Binding Mochi and all the special poison effects. So all of a sudden with Budew, of course, it has 30 HP, so it's going to die very easily. But if you play the Binding Mochi and poison it, all of a sudden you're doing 50 damage. Plus, obviously, in between turns, you're doing that additional 6 damage counters in the getting that 60 damage. And if you have a Radiant Sneeze throughout, all of a sudden you're doing 2 additional damage counters. All of a sudden you're doing 80 damage for no energies, and you're poisoning the active Pokemon, and you've also item locked them. Why is this also scary? Think about the decks we're doing really well right now. Lots of them could potentially be like so Dragapult, Gardevoir, Ceruledge, Charizard, all of these ones have 70 HP basic Pokemon. All of a sudden, if they get knocked out, it's going to be in between turns, not on your turn. So all of a sudden, let's lock them out from versatility, but also giving them item lock. So all of a sudden, they've got less resources to them. And all of a sudden, this little baby Pokemon has completely swayed the format back into your set. You're not going to be attacking with your Klawf. You're going to save your Terapagos for your turn 2 plays. And all of a sudden, you're doing 80 damage, item lock the opponent, and they've locked them out from versatility. This is incredibly scary and something to really consider about going into this Budew sort of format. Potentially, this could be one of the strongest sort of utilizers of this one, and not the likes of Dragapult or potentially Gardevoir. So again, something to think about how powerful it is. But the rest of this build is really kind of like straightforward. I love this Rock as well as another sort of attacking option for no energies. And also the Regidrago. This one here, again, is playing the likes of Budew, but also it's kind of seen a way to kind of go around this one. It's playing the Christmas as another way to energy accelerate, not relying on energy switch or Earthen Vessel. So again, that's really good. It's like getting some key cards out from your deck with utilizing Crispin to have that energy acceleration. And effectively, sometimes even unlocking an attack on your first turn if you go second with likes of Regidrago V. Another sort of key card as well, which I really want to like talk about with this one, the only discard effect you really have is that V-Star and the Professor's Research as well. You'll get rid of the likes of Earthen Vessel and Ultra Ball on the likes of Budew lock. So potentially utilizing your own Budew is really good. We've seen Clever do really well in Regidrago, why not likes of Budew? So now I want to actually really analyze exactly what people are really thinking about what could do well at the Champions League this coming weekend. So we see this, we've talked about this, we utilize this player quite a lot, and really see exactly how the format is going with it. He thinks some of the best picks are going back to Dragapult with Dusknoir, obviously Gardevoir, Ancient Box, and Miraidon. A little bit of a surprise with Ancient Box, but I think it's doing really well. Another thing which I'm really surprised about, he does think put like the Terapagos and Klawf in like a tier 3 archetype. I definitely think it's a little bit higher up. I think definitely the Terapagos Klawf build I think is incredibly strong. They're still playing the likes of Lost Box, but I think Lost Box can really struggle in the sort of a item lock style format. We've seen even likes of Regidrago, Charizard, and Raging Bolt kind of go down to tier 2, which is incredibly surprising to think about when pretty much for the last like 6 months, Charizard, Raging Bolt, and Regidrago have been chucked up there as a tier 1 archetype. So again, something to really consider and really think about what they're thinking the format is kind of looking at going to the Champions League. If we look at the top 4 results at sort of the City Leagues, we can see still likes of Gardevoir and Dragapult are nearly up there, being nearly 40% of the format in the top 4. So again, something to think about. Like some Miraidon and Lugia doing very well. There is no surprise here because they are always meeting themselves in the finals and Champions League. So I would half expect them to have a really good deep run. Japan love this sort of archetype. It does incredibly well in the best of 1 format. So I would not be surprised if we see Miraidon do incredibly well. And of course, looking at the B tier, the tier 3. Again, no surprise of this archetype we've already talked about before. But one thing, big surprise here, we aren't seeing likes of Regidrago or potentially Charizard doing well in top 4. So something to a little bit think about as well going into the Champions League. How many Budews will we actually see in the top 16? Could we see a 16 for 16? Could we see only 8 or generally only 1? Obviously, it's always such a surprise because it's the best of 1 format, but I'm really excited to see exactly how it will really develop. I think this is going to have a huge impact. Of course, this is going to be an EUIC format over in February. I did in fact manage to get a ticket, so I'm really excited. I've already started a test here in this format, and I can definitely say one thing, Budew really is going to be a threat to the format, but also it's a really good savior by bringing decks like Dragapult and Gardevoir back into the fray, back into being a tier 1 sort of archetype. And that's something which I absolutely love. It slowed down the format, so all of a sudden you're not winning in 4 turns with like Golden Go, you're actually kind of like winning in like potentially 5 or 6 or even 7 turns because Budew is really slowing down that. And I think that's a great thing for this format. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to like, subscribe. Don't forget to watch my Mastering Golden Go video, which was released last week. Of course, I'm going to be back in a few days' time with a couple shorts, and hopefully next week as well, really analysing what the Champions League has kind of got to bring. I'm really excited to see how the format's really kind of developed and see exactly what impact Budew is really going to have. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.